Golden Shoulders Volume 4 today. We're going to focus on flexion and extension pails and rails of the shoulder. I will be making use of a wooden dowel. It's a very valuable $3 to $4 tool you can buy from Home Depot, as well as a handful of yoga blocks. For the first exercise, we are going to move into a quadruped position with the one arm up on the dowel. So I'm taking what would be an all-four stance, but I'm using my right arm. I'm going to reach my right arm up on this dowel, and I'm going to climb it all the way as high as it can reach. And then I'm going to just sit in and feel the stretch here under my armpit and all this under lat stuff. And this is where we are going to hold the stretch for 2 minutes. So set your timer. We're taking 6-second inhalations, following that with 8-second exhalations to get our body into a calm parasympathetic state. Despite the fact that we are in an uncomfortable stretch, we're telling our body that we're just fine, everything is okay. And we're making it believe that. Now, the pail is going to be, once again, with a 10-second ramp up. So we're going to begin by driving this dowel into the floor, and the idea is to drive it through the floor and pull it back. That's the way that your arm would work if we were going into extension. Now, we're not going to lose the grip. We don't have a block here. What we have is a grip that's not going to allow the shoulder to pull away. So from the stretch position, I'm starting to put 10% of pressure into the floor. I'm increasing it to 20 and 30 and 40. I'm working all the way up to 100, where I'm going to hold for 15 seconds a max effort contraction of, again, all this underarm, lat, shoulder blade. Anything that wants to work is going to work. We're pulling it down into the ground for 15 seconds, holding that max contraction, and then we are going to reverse the move, and I'm going to use the back of the shoulder stuff, the stuff that is non-stretch, to try to lift this dowel off the floor, so go further into flexion. Now what's going to happen is probably nothing. So as you see, the dowel did not move off the floor. The reason is I'm in my end range. I can't go any further into flexion from this position, especially after hard work like that. So the idea is not going to be to lift it up off the floor, because the only way I could do that would be to lean back, and that's not the exercise. The exercise is isolated shoulder flexion. But if there was a scale under this dowel, what you want to do is make it say 0, or the least amount of weight that you can possibly be pushing into there is the emphasis of the exercise. So reach up, you might be able to get a little bit. I'm just clearing it now. I'm pulling, pulling, pulling. You're going to hold that for 10 seconds. So the pail, drive through. Just don't allow it to move. The rail, increase the flexion even more. Do that both sides, 2 sets each. Once again, after the rail, the 10-second, you're just going to sit back into the stretch. Your body's going to give you a little bit more range after that. So you can reach up a little bit more. Breathe, regulate your central nervous system, and then repeat. That is our first shoulder flexion exercise. Now for shoulder extension, we're going to do virtually the same thing, but behind you instead of in front of you. So you can lean down, reach your hand as high as it can go. Once again now, we're going to hold that stretch for 2 minutes. At the 2-minute part, once again, pail is now the opposite. We're trying to come into flexion. So you're driving the dowel into the ground hard as you can with the intention to kind of scoop up and bring your hand up. Once again, the block is in the grip, so that's not going to happen. So 2 minutes, we are taking our deep breath, we are irrigating, we are squeezing the grip, we're squeezing our shoulder, driving our toes into the ground, and we begin by applying 10% of pressure into this ground. Over the next 10 seconds, we work that up to 100% max effort. We hold that for 15 seconds, and without any movement in body position, we then immediately reverse the direction, try to lift it up off the floor. I'm getting, I don't know, not much here, but obviously I wasn't fully in end range because I'm able to pull it up. That's okay, so I'm just going to focus on driving the dowel now as high in the sky as possible. For 10 seconds, release, reach up a little bit further, find the new stretch, hold it right there. Give me a good 30 or 45 second hold, breathe, and repeat. Welcome back, Golden Shoulders 4.2. I was going to do one more exercise yesterday, but the video cut off without me realizing it, so I'm going to give you two more right now. What we're going to use for this exercise is another shoulder, or it's going to be an overhead flexion exercise. I got two blocks stacked up and my dowel laying across. We're going to work from an overhead position, and the action is going to be to drive the dowel through the blocks as if I was going to pull my hands down. That's going to be the pail. The rail is going to be then to move the dowel off the blocks. Now, I'm using 2 blocks height. The height that you want to use is going to depend on how much flexion you have. So if you don't have much, you can lower it down a block. If you have a lot, you could add a 3rd block, use something taller, and get your shoulders more up overhead. So what we're going to do is get into position. I'm going to lay down. I got my head down on the mat. I'm going to have my hands overhead on the dowel. There's not a big stretch here, so just kind of get your breath right, and then you can get right to the action. As I said, the pail, you're going to use a 10-second ramp up. You're going to drive the dowel through the blocks. 10-second ramp up to 100%. Hold the 100% for 15 seconds. Rail the opposite, using the tissue that's not being stretched to raise that dowel right up off the blocks. Looks like this. You're not going to see much movement here. As I begin, I'm using all this back shoulder stuff to drive straight through the block, working up to as hard as I can. When I get to the rail now, without manipulating my body position in any way, we're going from the shoulder flex position straight up, and you're going to hold it for 10 seconds. Now for a bonus exercise, we have talked about cars, we've talked about pails and rails. We haven't gotten to lift-offs yet, and that's going to be, we'll get into that deeper later on. But so a lift-off is going to be for more control work. So the pail and rail is our main technique to increase strength and increase the range in the joint. Lift-off is going to be to get better control and create better neurological adaptation so you can access the tissue better. So simply for lift-offs, we'll do sets of 12. We're going to get in position just like we did for the pails and rails, but instead of driving now, we're just going to focus on lifting off the block. What? Hold and come back gently. Don't slam back down. So it's just a hold and down, up and down, up and down. If you want to go back to the original exercise, we could do lift-offs in that position also. So I'm raising my hand and then the top. You're going to find the end range of flexion, so where you could not lift off, and come down just a little bit, give yourself a little bit of freedom to access. Then you can do the same thing, again, sets of do 10 to 12. Inhale, you're still irrigating the same way. Lift off. Lift off. Same thing, better control work. Do this after doing your cars. Definitely address the rotational class first. And let me know in the comments how you feel. Thank you.